निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. Okay. The characteristics of Rishabdeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this chapter, Rishabdeva, the son of Maharaj Nabhi, begot 100 sons, and during the reign of these sons, the world was very happy in all respects. When Rishabdeva appeared as the son of Maharaj Nabhi, he was appreciated by the people as the most exalted and beautiful personality of that age. His poise, influence, strength, enthusiasm, bodily luster, and other transcendental qualities were beyond compare. The word Rishabha refers to the best or the supreme. Due to the super excellent attributes of the son of Maharaj Nabhi, the king named his son Rishabha, or the best. His influence was incomparable, although there was a scarcity of rain. Rishabdev did not care for Indra, the king of heaven, who was in charge of supplying rain. Through his own potency, Rishabdev sumptuously covered Ajanabha with ample rain. Upon receiving Rishabdev, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, as his son, King Nabhi began to raise him very carefully. After that, he entrusted the ruling power to him and, retiring from family life, lived at Badarik Ashram, completely engaged in the worship of Vasudeva, the Supreme Lord. To follow social customs, Lord Rishabdev, for a while, became a student at the Gurukul, and after returning, he followed the orders of his Guru and accepted a wife, Jayanti, who had been given to him by the king of heaven, Indra. He begot 100 sons in the womb of Jayanti. Of these 100 sons, the eldest was known as Bharat. Since the reign of Maharaj Bharat, this planet has been called Bharatavarsha. The Rishabdev's other sons were headed by Kushavarta, Ilavarta, Brahmavarta, Malaya, Ketu, Bhadrasen, Indrasprak, Vidarbha, and Kikat. There were also other sons named Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabuddha, Pippalayan, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamas, and Karabhajan. Instead of ruling the kingdom, these 9 became the mendicant preachers of Krishna consciousness, following the religious precepts of Bhagavatam. The Navayogikas. Their characteristics and activities are described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam during the talks between Vasudeva and Narada at Kurukshetra. To reach the general populace, King Rishabdeva performed many sacrifices and taught his sons how to rule the citizens. Text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Atha hatam utpatyayevabhi yajyamana bhagaval lakshanam.
Atha hatam utpatyayeva abhivajyamana bhagaval lakshanam.
Samyo pashama vairagyashvarya mahabhutibhir anudinam.
Samyo pashama vairagyashvarya mahabhutibhir anudinam.
Vedhamananubhavam prakritayah praja brahmana devataश्चावमी तल समवना यातितारम जगृदु.
Vedhamananubhavam prakritayah praja brahmana devataश्चावमी तल समवना यातितारम जगृदु.
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada. The Sukadeva Goswami said, as soon as the Lord was born as the son of Maharaj Nadi, he manifested symptoms of Supreme Lord, such as mark on the bottom of the cheek, the flag, Just a minute. Yeah. Thunderbolts, etc. This son was equal to everyone and very peaceful. He could control his senses and his mind and possess all appearances. He did not hanker for material enjoyment. Endowed with all these attributes, the son of Maharaj Navi became more powerful day after day. Due to this, the citizens learned Brahmin, learned Brahmins, demigods and ministers wanted Risudev to be appointed ruler of the earth. Purport. In these days of chief incarnation, it is very interesting to note these bodily symptoms found in incarnation. From the very beginning of his birth, it was observed that Risudev's feet were marked with the transitional sign, a flag, thunderbolt, lotus flowers, etc. In addition to this, as the Lord began to grow, he became very prominent. He was equal to everyone. He did not favor one person and neglect another. An incarnation of God must have the six appearances: wealth, strength, knowledge, beauty, fame, and initiation. It is said that although Visuddhi was endowed with the opulences, he was not at all attached to material enjoyments. He was also he was self-controlled and therefore liked by everyone. Due to his super excellent qualities, everyone wanted him to rule the earth. An incarnation of God has to be accepted by experienced people and by these symptoms described in these shastras. An incarnation is not accepted simply by the adoration of foolish people. Hare Krishna Bali, Dandavat.
Krishna Nanda Pranam Prabhu. So there are bodily symptoms. Actually, there are many symptoms when the incarnation of the Lord appears. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is like Lord Chaitanya mentions, Avatara nahi kahe ami avatar, muni sab jani kare lakshana vichar. So when Lord Chaitanya appeared, he never proclaimed he was the Lord. Actually, Lord Krishna also never proclaimed he was the Lord. It was only in the Bhagavad Gita he explained it. And only in some places where he manifested his symptoms. But in general, the Lord never proclaimed he was the Lord. Neither did Lord Ram. So actually, we can understand that the personalities of Godhead, they do not proclaim they are God. But the great souls, the great sages, they understand from the scriptures. So, you see, when we are accepting spiritual knowledge, when we are getting into the process of spiritual knowledge, we cannot be sentimental. We cannot afford to be foolish. We have to have knowledge. Accepting spiritual knowledge is like buying gold. Like Srila Prabhupada explains that when we are going to the market to buy gold, we need to at least have some understanding of what gold is. Otherwise, we'll get cheated. So just like that, when we are trying to acquire spiritual knowledge, we must have some basis. We must have some spiritual basis. So for instance, we must know what is sadachar. We must understand. So if we are accepting knowledge from somebody, we should understand the symptoms and we should think whether this knowledge is bona fide or not. That's why we say Guru Sadhu Shastra. Everything should be on the basis of Guru, the sages, and the Shastra. Otherwise, our knowledge could be, we could be mistaken. Like in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada writes that philosophies of sages like Agastya, Jaimini, Kanad, they are like sharks in the ocean of spirituality. And a neophyte, if he is not careful, these philosophies are like sharks and crocodiles in the waters of spirituality. And if a neophyte devotee is not careful, he will be gobbled up, he will be swallowed by these philosophies. So we have to be very careful because we are not so knowledgeable, we're not self-realized. So therefore, we might mistake the real knowledge for fake. So, and fake for real knowledge. So we have to be very, very particular. For instance, while practicing bhakti, we might become, inclined towards impersonalism, or we might become inclined towards sahajaism. Both are dangers, one or the other side of the same danger. So we have to be extremely cautious. We cannot afford to make mistakes when we are following the path of spiritual life. Shurasya dharaya nishita duratyaya. Just like the edge of a razor, the path of spiritual life is that difficult. So simply because general populace accepts something, we don't need to do that. Like just recently, there was like in the 90s, I remember, there was this fat man in South India and he used to call himself Kalki. And there were people actually worshipping him. And I think he died of cancer or something. So what kind of avatar will die of a disease? What kind of an avatar is fat, grows beard, has to shave, has to take bath? No, that's not an avatar. But there are foolish people who actually accept all of that. So this is Mayavad. This is also a form of Mayavad. To accept an ordinary living entity as the Supreme Lord. So we have to be very careful. And therefore, we need to study the scriptures very carefully. Simply hearing or accepting knowledge from somebody else is not sufficient. You have to study scriptures on your own and try to understand with your own intelligence. Hare Krishna. Is any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Babuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
But can there be two avatars in the same period?
Yes. There was Parshuram
and Ram
and
came.
Krishna. Ram and Parshuram, Krishna and Parshuram.
Krishna and Parshuram also.
Yes. I mean, who was Karna's guru? That was Parshuram.
Okay.
Karna was a contemporary of Yudhishthir Maharaj. He was his elder brother.
Right. But then how do they say that they were in almost two yugas continuously? Parshuram was Ram's period and also Krishna period now.
Yeah.
So how that this device?
He's a Supreme Lord.
So
his pastimes are manifest before Lord Ram, but he continued to stay on because he became a sannyasi.
Okay.
His father Jamadagni became a sannyasi. He became a sannyasi also.
Yeah. Then I thought, I was surprised even why questions were basically on this. Why Ram and Parshuram should be at the same time. Of course, role to play. Now, I recollect now, I had forgotten. During Krishna's time also he was there.
Yes. He came to fight Lord Ram and he broke the bow of Shiva.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so text 2. Tasya hava ittham varshamana variyasa brahat shlokena chaujasa balena.
तस्य वा इत्थं वर्षमणा वर्यसा बृहच्छ्लोके चौरसा बलेन श्रिय
श्रिया यशसा वीर्य शौर्याभ्याम च पिता ऋषभ इतिदाम नाम चकार.
श्रिया यशसा वीर्यसौरभ्यां च पिता ऋषभ इतीदं नाम चकार.
Yes. Someone like to read?
Narrate from.
Yes, please.
Okay. Translation. When the son of Maharaja Nabi became visible, he evinced all good qualities described by the great poets, namely a well-built body with all the symptoms of the Godheads, prowess, strength, beauty, name, fame, influence, and enthusiasm. When the father, Maharaj Nabi, saw all these qualities, he thought his son to be the best of human beings or the supreme being. Therefore, he gave him the name Rishabha. Purport. To accept someone as God or incarnation of God, one must observe the symptoms of God in his body. All the symptoms were found in the body of Maharaja Nabi's extraordinarily powerful son. His body was well structured and he displayed all the transcendental qualities. He showed great influence and he could control his mind and senses. Consequently, he was named Rishabha, which indicates that he was the supreme living being. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, so So, Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, it is mentioned. Also, it is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yasyavatara Vyajante Sharireshva Asharirina Taistayir Atulyatishayir Viryayadehishva Asangataye. The Lord does not have a material body, yet he descends among human beings in his transcendental body as an incarnation. Therefore, it is very difficult for us to understand who is an incarnation. Only by his extraordinary prowess and uncommon activities, which are impossible for embodied living entities, can one partially understand the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now this is a very interesting verse, and if you see the implications of this, they're also very interesting. What is spiritual and what is material? So sometimes we have this sort of a misconception that spiritual means that the Lord is some kind of, airy element, or he's some kind of, like flying in the sky kind of personality. While that is possible for the Lord, but his bodily form, his external form appears very material, appears to be material. Therefore, ordinary living entities become mistaken. Krishna was mistaken to be an ordinary boy. Lord Chaitanya was mistaken. Everyone is mistaken to be ordinary only. Very few people actually understand the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. But by his extraordinary symptoms, you can understand that he is supreme. For example, Lord Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill. He defeated so many great kings. He was the cause of Pandava's victory. So those are uncommon activities. He married 16,108 princesses and spent time simultaneously with them. He danced with thousands of gopis simultaneously with everyone, individually. So these are extraordinary activities which a living entity cannot manifest. Or Lord Chaitanya performed the extraordinary activity of flooding the whole world with the holy names of the Lord. He even converted Pathans into Vaishnavas. That is the extraordinary activity of the Supreme Lord. So therefore we can understand that he is the Supreme. So here we see Maharaj Nabhi Sir Rishabdev had those transcendental marks on his body, and his character was extremely pure. He was completely sense-controlled. Therefore, the great sages could understand that he is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments? Okay, then we continue.
Prabhuji, one question about the number of qualities. I think in previous some of the discussion you mentioned that Krishna possesses certain number of qualities. So do the incarnation as well, or different incarnation may have different numbers. Okay.
Yeah, like for example, Lord Dattatreya, he preached impersonalism. So very few qualities. Or Lord Buddha, they are practically like Lord Buddha practically did not preach anything. He actually preached nihilism. So, I mean, all the forms of the Lord have all the qualities, but the type of incarnation determines how much is being displayed by the Lord. So, in other incarnations, the Lord hides those qualities.
Yeah.
So Lord,
okay, probably. And
Lord
that's
Krishna,
probably
64 qualities, Lord Narayana 60, Lord Shiva 55, and the living entities 50 qualities. So Brahma and other living entities, 50 qualities. Okay. Because we are Ansha, we are Vivinna Amsha of the Lord. We are his own parts. We are his like little fragments. So we possess less qualities.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Text 3. Yasya Indra Spardhamano Bhagavan Varshena Vivarshitat. Avadharya Bhagavan Rishabhadevo Yogeshwara Prahasya.
Avadharya Bhagavan Rishabhadevo Yogeshwara Prahasya.
Yeah.
Yoga Mayaya Swavarsham Ajanabham Nama Namabhya Varshat.
Yogamaya Swarsham Ajanabham Nama
Varsham.
Yes, please. Someone like to
Clear
read?
it, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Read, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Mary Prabhupada. Translation. Indra, the king of heaven, who was very materially opulent, became envious of King Rishabhadeva. Consequently, he stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bharatavarsha. At the time, Supreme Lord Rishabhadeva, the master of all mystic power, understood King Indra's purpose and smiled a little. Then, by his own prowess, through Yoga Maya, his internal potency, he profusely poured water upon his own place, which was known as Ajanaba. Purport. We find the word Bhagavan used twice in this verse. Both King Indra and Rishabhadeva, the incarnation of Supreme Lord, are described as Bhagavan. Sometimes Narada and Lord Brahma are also addressed as Bhagavan. The word Bhagavan means one is a very opulent and very powerful person like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Narada or Indra. They are all addressed as Bhagavan due to their extraordinary opulence. King Rishabhadeva is an incarnation of Supreme Lord, and therefore he was the original Bhagavan. Consequently, he is described herein as Yogeshwara, which indicates that he has the most powerful spiritual potency. He is not dependent on King Indra for water. He can supply water himself, and he did so in this case. The Bhagavad Gita it is stated, Yagnat Bhavati Parjanya. Due to the performance of Yajna, clouds of water are manifest in the sky. Clouds and rainfall are under the management of Indra, the heavenly king. But when Indra is neglectful, the Supreme Lord himself, who is known as Yajna or Yajnapati, takes the task upon himself. Consequently, there was sufficient rainfall in the place named Ajanaba. When Yagnapati wants to, he can do anything without the help of any subordinate. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is known as Almighty. In the present age of Kali, where without the help, in the present age of Kali, there will eventually be a great scarcity of water, Anavrishti, for the general populace, due to the ignorance and the scarcity of yagnic ingredients, will neglect to perform yajnas. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore advises, Yagnai Sankirtana Trayai, Yajanti hi Sumedasaha. After all, yajna is meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age of Kali, there is great scarcity and ignorance. Nonetheless, everyone can perform Sankirtana Yajna. Every family in every society can conduct Sankirtana Yajna at least every evening. In this way, there will be no disturbance or scarcity of rain. It is essential for people in this age to perform the Sankirtana Yajna in order to be materially happy and to advance spiritually. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Saha yajna praja srishtva purvo vacha prajapati anena prasavishyatvam yeshavostva ishta kamaduk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, Be thou happy with this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Human beings and demigods, they are higher living entities. They have developed consciousness. They are meant to protect this universe. They are meant to realize their true self. They are meant to be protectors of this world. So therefore, this process of yajna is meant for the benefit of every living entity. So it's not just like just performance of yajna to attain some rain and get some food. Yajna is also meant for the benefit of other living entities. So because of rain, so many grasses grow, animals benefit. A human being is supposed to be protector of all the living entities. Like Srila Prabhupada explains, that if a king is ruling a kingdom, then all the creatures of that kingdom are under his shelter. The trees, the birds, the animals, the insects, they are all under his shelter. It's not that he's just the king of human beings, he's king of every living entity. So Srila Prabhupada explains that in the absence of Vedic culture, where people forms nations and societies, but kill animals and eat them. This is just tribalism. This is animalistic tribalism. This is not transcendental at all. This has no significance. So the purpose of human society is to perform sacrifice and achieve perfection. Here we also see that Indra became envious of King Rishabh. Previously, we have seen that Indra became envious of Krishna, or we're going to see that in the 10th canto actually. Indra becomes envious of sages. So what is this thing? What is wrong with Indra? The point is, excessive material opulence maddens a living entity. A man becomes mad when there is excessive opulence. So, you see, so Indra, when he saw the opulence of Rishabdev, his magnificent qualities, he became envious. So, while we are laughing at Indra, we should understand that we are also of a similar nature. Actually, we are in this material world because we are envious of Krishna. That's why we fell down here. Therefore, we have to overcome this enviousness, this jealousy of the Lord, by rendering devotional service to the Lord and to pure Vaishnavas. By such service, gradually this envy in our heart will start vanishing and will become situated in the process of bhakti. So in this age of Kali, so this process of overcoming the envy, the process of sacrifice, is all the chanting of the holy names. Kalau nastev gatir adyatha. There is no other way in this age of Kali. So therefore, chanting must be done continuously. Man manabhav madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Always think of me, Krishna is saying. So one has to always think of Krishna. If one thinks continuously this way, then one will become completely purified. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments? Okay, then we continue. Text 4. Nabhistu yatha bhilashitam suprajastvam avarudhyati pramoda bharat.
Nabisto yatapi lakinam suprajastavam avarud pramodavara.
Nabhistu yatha bhilashitam suprajastvam avarudhyati pramoda vihvalo gadgadaksharaya gira swairam grahita naraloka sadharmam.
Valo gadgadakshara agira svairam grahita naraloka sadharmam.
Bhagavantam Purana Purusham Maya Vilasita Matir Vatsatati.
Bhagavatam
Pantam Maya Vitamati Vatsatati.
Tanuragam Upalalayan Param Nivritim Upagata.
Upalalayan Param Nivritim Upagata.
To read?
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Okay, translation. Due to getting a perfect son according to his desire, King Nabhi was always overwhelmed with transcendental bliss and was very affectionate to his son. It was with ecstasy and a faltering voice that he addressed him, "My dear son, my darling." This mentality was brought about by Yogamaya, whereby he accepted the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Father, as his own son. Out of his supreme goodwill, the Lord became his son and dealt with everyone as if he were an ordinary human being. Thus King Nabhi began to raise his transcendental son with great affection, and he was overwhelmed with transcendental bliss, joy, and devotion. Purport. The word Maya is used in the sense of illusion. Considering the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be his own son, Maharaj Nabhi was certainly an illusion, but this was transcendental illusion. This illusion is required, otherwise how can one accept the Supreme Father as his own son? The Supreme Lord appears as the son of one of his devotees, just as Lord Krishna appeared as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. These devotees could never think of their son as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for such appreciation would hamper their relationship of paternal love. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So sometimes the Lord gives this kind of benediction. So some devotee is in Vatsalya Ras with the Lord, then the Lord will appear as his son. So this is to be understood. Like this is transcendental illusion, Maya. So Yoga Maya. Now this is different. Like in this material world, when a father is attached to his son, that is Mahamaya. That is just an illusion. Because there is no son, there is no father. And the relationship itself is illusory. Like within a short time, this relationship will be broken and everything would be forgotten. Like which father I had in my previous birth, I have no idea. Or before that, or before that. So many births I have taken, but I don't remember any of those fathers now. In this birth also, I have taken a father. Very soon I'll forget him also. That's the nature of material life. But this kind of a relationship that a devotee has with the Lord, that is transcendent because it is happening by Lord's own wish. So it cannot be illusory. It has to be perfect. So this is perfect relationship. Like we see, like this great sage Shatarupa and his wife Anusuya, they performed austerities. So they obtained the Lord as their son in 3 births. So he appeared as, what was his name? We hear about him in the 2nd canto of Bhagavatam. That is Prishnigarh. Yeah. So Prishnigarh, then he appeared as Lord Vamanadev, then he appeared as this the Prishnigarh, Vamanadev, and then as Krishna. So 3 incarnations he appeared. So that's a rasa. But that is Yoga Maya. That illusion is created by the Lord for the enjoyment of the devotee and for his own enjoyment. And that is eternal. That is not temporary. So that kind of a relationship remains fixed. That purifies the devotee. But any other devotion to material objects in this material world will always contaminate a living entity. Yes, any questions or comments here? Let me continue. Text 5. Viditanuragam apaura prakriti janapado raja nabhiratmajam.
Viditanuragam apaura prakriti janapado raja nabhir.
Samaya setu rakshayam abhishitya brahmaneshu panithaya sa.
Samaya setu rakshayam abhishitya brahmaneshu panidhaya saha.
Meru devya vishalayam prasanna nipunena tapasa samadhi yogen.
Merudevya Vishalayam Prasanna Nipunena Tapasa Samadhi Yoga.
Nara Narayanakyam Bhagavantam Vasudevam Upasina Kalena Tana Mahimanam Avapa.
Naranarayanakhyam Bhagavantam Vasudevam Upasina Kalena Tan Mahimanam Apapa. May I read to read?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Translation. King Navi understood that his son Rishabdev was very popular among the citizens and among government officers and ministers. Understanding the popularity of his son, Maharaj Navi enthroned him as the emperor of the world to give protection to the general populace in terms of the Vedic religious system. To do this, he entrusted him into the hands of learned Brahmanas who would guide him in administrating the government. Then Maharaj Navi and his wife Meru Devi went to Badrikashram in the Himalaya mountains, where the king engaged himself very expertly in austerities and penances with great jubilation. In full samadhi, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, who is Krishna in his plenary expansion. By doing so, in course of time, Maharaj Navi was elevated to the spiritual world known as Vaikuntha. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When Maharaj Navi saw that his son Rishabdev was popular with the general populace and the governmental servants, he chose to install him on the imperial throne. In addition, he wanted to entrust his son into the hands of the learned Brahmanas. This means that a monarch was supposed to govern strictly according to Vedic principles under the guidance of learned Brahmanas, who could advise him according to the standard Vedic scriptures like Manusmriti and similar Shastras. It is the duty of the king to rule the citizens according to Vedic principles. According to Vedic principles, society is divided into 4 categories: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. After dividing the society in this way, it is the king's duty to see that everyone executes Vedic principles according to his caste. A Brahmana must perform the duty of a Brahmana without cheating the public. It is not that one attains the name of a Brahmana without the qualifications. It is the king's duty to see that everyone engages in his occupational duty according to Vedic principles. In addition, retirement at the end of life is compulsory. Maharaj Nabi, although still a king, retired from family life and went with his wife to a place called Badrikashram in the Himalayas, where the deity Narnarayan is worshipped. The words Prasanna Nipunena Tapasa indicate that the king accepted all kinds of austerity very expertly and jubilantly. He did not at all mind leaving his comfortable life at home, although he was the emperor. Despite undergoing severe austerities and penances, he felt very pleased at Badrikashram, and he did everything there expertly. In this way, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, Samadhi Yoga, always thinking of Krishna, Vasudev Maharaj Navi attained success at the end of his life and was promoted to the spiritual world Vaikuntha Loka. This is the way of Vedic life. One must stop the process of repeated birth and death and return home back to Godhead. In the words Tan Mahimanam Avap are significant in this regard. Srila Sridhar Swami says that Mahima means liberation in this life. We should act in such a way that in this life, that after giving up this body, we will become liberated from the bondage of repeated birth and death. This is called Jivan Mukti. Srila Veera Raghavacharya states that in the Chandogya Upanishad, there are 8 symptoms of Jivan Mukta. A person who is steady, who is already liberated, even when living in this body. The first symptom of one so liberated is that he is freed from all sinful activity. Apahata Papa. As long as one is under the clutches of Maya in the material energy, one has to engage in sinful activity. Bhagavad Gita describes such people as Dushkritinam, which indicates that they are always engaged in sinful activity. One who is liberated in this life does not commit any sinful activities. Sinful activity involves illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Another symptom of a liberated person is Vijara, which indicates that he is not subject to the miseries of old age. Another symptom is Vimrityu. A liberated person prepares himself in such a way that he does not take on any more material bodies which are destined to die. In other words, he does not fall down again to repeat birth and death. Another symptom is Vishok, which indicates that he is callous to material distress and happiness. Another is Vijigastha, which indicates that he no longer desires material enjoyment. Another symptom is Apipata, which means that he has no desire other than to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, his dear most persuadable Lord. A further symptom is Satyakama, which indicates that all his desires are directed to the Supreme Truth, Krishna. He does not want anything else. He is Satya Sankalpa. Whatever he desires is fulfilled by the grace of Krishna. First of all, he does not desire anything for his material benefit. And secondly, if he desires anything at all, he simply desires to serve the Supreme Lord. That desire is fulfilled by the Lord's grace. That is called Satya Sankalpa. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out that the word Mahima means returning to the spiritual world back home, back to Vaikuntha. Sri Shukadev says that the word Mahima means that the devotee attains the qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. This is called Sadharma, or the same quality. Just as Krishna is never born and never dies, his devotees who return to Godhead never die and never take birth within the material world. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Beautiful purport. This is practically the essence of whole Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam here. So this is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's writings. He explains everything so wonderfully that we think it is so commonsensical. I mean, it's not so common, but Srila Prabhupada's way of writing it is like this. Because Srila Prabhupada did not appear to just show his scholarly abilities. Like we see, for example, there was this very famous South Indian Brahmana, I don't remember his name now, Swami Chinmay. If you read his books, you will not understand anything. He's just throwing dictionaries at you. If you hear his lectures, you will not understand anything. He's just throwing English literature at you. You just can't understand what he's trying to say even. But Srila Prabhupada puts it so very simply that we think that we are brilliant. Actually, that is the brilliance of Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj Nabhi, he saw excellent qualities of Rishabdev. So there are many points to consider here. Actually, we could just go on the whole night discussing this purport, but I'll just try to keep it short. So Maharaj Nabhi first understood his son Rishabdev was very popular among citizens. So, so nowadays there's this kind of fad amongst all spiritual organizations to be very, leadership savvy. Everyone is like leadership course, this leadership. So the point is, what is leadership? Leadership means that one's character is so sublime and so powerful that others are the others are willingly following. Leadership doesn't mean that one is just merely charismatic and clever with his words and he's getting people to follow him. That is cheating. That is rascaldom. That's a symptom of Kali Yuga. That an unqualified man juggles the words very nicely and people think he's a great leader. But the Vedic standard is that a man is of such sterling character that others benefit simply by following him. So when Nabhi understood Rishabdev's excellent qualities, he decided to enthrone him. So what did he do? He entrusted him to the Brahmanas. So see, the Vedic society is Chaturvarnyam Maya system Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So Guna Karma Vibhagasha, depending on the qualities, the whole society is established in the lines of 4 Varnas. Now, the whole system is that all the Varnas work together to attain liberation. So, you see, for example, if you see a ship, a ship has maybe even a modern ship will usually have a crew of 10 to 11 people operating it. So there will be a helmsman who just controls the rudder of the ship. Then there is a navigator. Then there is there's an engineer who controls the engines. Then there are various technicians handling electrical and mechanical equipment. Then there is a captain who is coordinating the activities of everyone. He's considered the chief of navigation. He decides where to go and how to go, and the navigators under him will calculate the route, and the helmsman will steer the ship according to that. So all the crew operates together. Then there is a load master. So load master decides how the ship will be loaded. Ships are not loaded like trucks. Okay, the ship is there. Okay, now let's pile container 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, there has to be load balancing. Otherwise, the ship will capsize at the dock itself. So there is a load master who decides how the ship will be loaded also. So there are different men working together to control the whole ship, and the ship may be hundreds of thousands of tons. So, but none of these men is working to his own false ego. They're all working together as one team. The helmsman does not say that now I have the control wheel, I'll decide wherever the ship turns. Nor will the captain say that, I am the boss, I will think whatever has to be done. Nor will the engineer say that, okay, now I wish, the engine is making too much noise, I'll just shut it down now, I want to sleep. No, they all work together for one objective. The ship has to go from, say, San Francisco to Hong Kong, the ship will go. And these men will work together for that particular purpose. So this whole human society is also like a ship. It has to be guided to the transcendental waters, back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, these various categories of men in Varnashram, they must coordinate, they must work together to achieve that objective. The Brahmanas must work selflessly to provide education and perform yajnas. The Kshatriyas must give selfless protection to the helpless. And they must govern justly. The Vaishya, they must earn money and they must use it for the welfare of the society. They must pay their taxes nicely. And Shudras should selflessly serve the other 3 Varnas with their labor. In this way, the whole society will be prosperous and eventually everyone will be eligible to go back to Godhead. So this is Varnashram. This is Varna. Then there is Ashram. So one takes education in Brahmachari Ashram. One performs yajnas in Grihastha Ashram. One tries to understand the Lord and learns renunciation in Vanaprastha Ashram. And one completely dedicates his life to the Lord in Sannyasa Ashram. So here, as soon as Maharaj Nabhi saw that Rishabdev is now engaged, that Maharaj Rishabdev has now fully taken over the kingdom, he went to the Himalayas, Badrikashram, and he engaged himself in the service of the Supreme Lord in the form of a Naranarayana. And therefore, he could elevate himself to the spiritual world. So we see, this is the sublime character of Maharaj Nabhi. Even though in the previous chapter we saw that Brahmanas were embarrassed by his desire to have a son like the Lord, but still we see that his character is sublime. So what is the difference? Or why this contradiction? So we can see that here, he has delayed his life for so long. It is a dangerous situation, anything can happen in this time. So therefore, even though he eventually went back to Godhead, he still enjoyed the material life for some time. And to a pure Vaishnava, even that is not very much acceptable. So Maharaj Nabhi, when he saw that his son is qualified, he left the house. Not like today, where people see, oh, my son is now an engineer, my son is a doctor, he lives in the US, he's making so much money. Now I will visit him and I'll also see Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. No, not like that. As soon as you see the son is qualified, you should take retirement. Okay, thank you. Now you conduct the household affairs. I will dedicate my life to rendering service to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, what is the use of having a son? If you have a son and you are still enjoying material life and he's all grown up, then you are a Grahamedhi. As soon as you have a son, you should hand over the material affairs to him and immediately take shelter of the Supreme Lord. That is the purpose of Grahastha life. To understand that son will give protection, now I will leave. Now I can leave fully, surrendering to the Supreme Lord. So this was the way that Maharaj Nabhi and Maharaj Rishabdev conducted themselves. Now here we are talking about Jivana Mukta. I think some devotee had asked me this question maybe a few months ago. What is Jivan Mukta? So Jivan Mukta is someone who is liberated already in this body, who has become free from all desires. So such a person exhibits various symptoms which have been mentioned here. So like for example, okay, Sridhar Swami says that Mahima means Mahimanam, Avap are significant in this regard. So Mahima means liberation in this life. So Jivana Mukta. So first symptom is he's freed from all sinful desire activity. Apahat Papa. So freed from all sinful activities means what? That he becomes peaceful. It is the sins, the reactions and their impressions which are causing us disturbance of the mind. So naturally one is completely peaceful. Apahat part, freed from all sinful reactions. Then of course, he will never have any sinful desire. So he becomes free from past reactions. At the same time, he has no desires for sinful activities in this life. He is not subjected to the miseries of old age. So what is the misery of old age? So many varieties of diseases and the great depression, sadness. Prabhupada says, Jara brings sadness. Old men become sad. They become unhappy. Why? Because they are attached to their lives. And now it is coming to a close. An old person understands that he is no longer required in this world. He does not like many things in this world. He becomes miserable. He sees his plans failing in front of his eyes. Big men, they see their plans failing. So they become miserable. So this is the defeat of the old age. But a pure devotee, a Jivan Mukta, is not affected by this. And then Vimrityu. He does not take another birth. Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. Krishna is saying, those who attain me, mam upetya, those who have attained me, they do not return to this material world. Napnuvanti mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam. They don't take another birth in this material world which is temporary and full of miseries. On the other hand, they come to me. And then they become eternally blissful. Napnuvanti Mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. They attain samsiddhi, they paramam gata. They attain param gati. So and another symptom is no longer desires material enjoyment. That means he has no desire. He does not desire anything material because he knows it is all useless. So he knows this is all temporary. It's like a dream. So he doesn't desire for anything at all here. He knows what is transcendental nature, what is transcendental. So in this way, all these qualities have been described here. So this was the position of Maharaj Nabhi, because he attained the Supreme Lord as his son. And so that is certainly true that he attained the Lord as his son. But more than that, it was his own abilities. Because he conducted himself according to the strict rules of Varnashram. Therefore, he attained perfection. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So this Jivan Mukta stage is the same as Brahma Bhuta stage, no?
Yes.
Means they are synonymous. That's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we stop here today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Pranam Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Danda Pranam.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.